Hi, Kirsten Kloss here once again, and I'm here with Chris Hamilton, and we're doing author interviews once again. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kirsten.
So, our special guest today, second time we've had this guest, the author of One Simple Idea, Stephen Key, and he's come up with a new book called One Simple Idea for Startups and Entrepreneurs. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great having you back. Well,
I'm glad to be back.
Well, and you know, it's spring here in Canada, and it's starting to warm up. And you know, in the pre-show, we were discussing how wonderful life is down where you are, and it sounds to me like you're very successful right now, and we're very happy to hear that, Stephen.
Well, thank you very much. I love what I do, and hopefully these books are going to help people take those ideas and get them out there and make a few dollars.
Exactly.
Well, Chris has a pile of questions for you on this show, and I'm just going to pass it on to Chris, and maybe he can introduce the book a little bit and maybe start getting into those questions, Stephen. Chris?
Thanks, Kirsten. Hey, so once again, I'm going to hold the book up. So, One Simple Idea for Startups and Entrepreneurs. As I tell every author, and I sound redundant when I say this is an awesome book, but the main thing is truly, it's like, this is a great book. You know, I guess the thing is we actually pick authors that have good books to interview them because we wouldn't pick the bad ones, right? So there you go. It's you know, I love the first book. As I told you before, I've recommended it to so many people. It is one of my most trafficked videos on one of the segments is one of the most trafficked videos on my blog and also on my YouTube channel, and it is very invaluable. And I believe, you know, this book takes it that next level. And I love the stories in it because you start talking about, you know, actually becoming the entrepreneur. And it's, you know, I don't think anyone ever comes out the gate and goes, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, right? They just kind of, all of a sudden, it's just like, hey, I got this great idea. Oh, maybe I should just do something with it. So why don't you tell us why you actually wrote the book?
Wow. I love ideas. I love bringing ideas to market. And just by chance, a good friend of mine came by my office, and I wasn't really doing much. And he said, look, he showed me a guitar pick, and he said, can you change a guitar pick? And I was like, why? Why would you change a guitar pick? But it got me thinking. And I'm a pretty creative guy, and I came up with these different shaped guitar picks. And we decided, why don't we go into business? Why? I was like, why would I go into business? But people liked the designs, and he had a little bit of experience selling musical accessories. So I said, why not? And just dove in with no experience whatsoever. Learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but it was fantastic. And that's what the book is all about, how to take a simple idea and how to bring it to market yourself without losing a lot of money, and how to increase your chances of success.
You know, it's a as I say, it's a wonderful book. I love it. I stole Kirsten's copy because, as I told you before, my son had taken mine and lost it. Eventually, I found it. I should probably give it back to Kirsten, or I might give it to someone I really like.
There's a lot of things missing in my office.
It is. I highly recommend it for anyone that has ever said, you know, I got this great idea. It's like, that is the path you go through. So, but the second book starts leading into a bunch of other questions about this. So, even before we jump into this, so where can people find information out about you? Where should they go?
To find information about me?
Well, no, you. It's should inventright.com, isn't it? Or
yeah, it's really simple. Just go to inventright.com. You want to invent right, not wrong. And you can see all the stuff up there, and you can always type in stephenkey.com, and I come up everywhere. So I guess that's a good thing. My wife thinks it's a terrible thing, but there's a lot of information up there.
Well, that's it's a good site. I am looking at it right now. I have looked at it in the past, and I think the main thing, you know, what we want to start off with is, you know, as I was saying, entrepreneurs, are they born or are they made? And you know, who do you think should be an entrepreneur? Do you believe born or made, and who should be?
Okay, I'm what you call a no-risk entrepreneur. I'm one of those guys that I have a lot of fear, and I think a lot of us do when you're going to start a company. What do I do? I don't have experience. I don't have money. Oh, what do I do? How am I going to pay the rent? I'm one of those guys too, and I've learned to take away that fear so I could go forward. And the first book is about licensing, and that's all about taking that fear away and let someone else do all the work take all the risk and you come up with ideas. But the second book is really about if you have your own idea and you don't want to license it to another company, but you want to start your own company. How do you do that? And I'm one of those guys, like I said, I was scared. I didn't have all the information. I didn't have the experience, but I dove in anyway. And what I've learned, if you keep it simple, if you keep it small, and you do some things, then you can reduce your risk and increase your chances. And that's what I learned. And I had a blast doing it. But you need to be careful. And the book is a roadmap of how to get guys like me to dive in and do it and be successful.
The you start talking about some of those what's a product look like and stuff. We'll get into that later on in the book because I found it was great. You kind of laid out some of the ground rules for creating a product. But now, what would you think would be good characteristics of an entrepreneur?
Having an open mind, number one, and learning from others. You have to be determined, but don't be so determined or so stubborn that you won't listen to others. Because what I like to do is I like to study the marketplace. I like to learn from others, what their mistakes, reach out to other people in industries, ask a lot of questions. So I think the one trait that you need to have is just have an open mind. Realize you don't have all the information, that it's going to be difficult. Have faith in yourself and be very persistent and get there. But be flexible, all right? Because you're going to make a lot of twists and turns, and I guess they call it pivot these days is the big word. You're going to go down a road and you're going to realize that's not the right road. Be able to change. So be flexible.
Excellent. Stephen, just so you know, we have a bit of a delay on the signal, so if it sounds like I'm not responding to your questions right away, it's just because of the fact that if I start talking, I talk over you. So just don't think that that's the case. So there you go.
You haven't rendered us silent.
Yes, exactly. And we'll cut. Well, by the way, we're going to cut this section out of the video as it goes full because it's.
I wanted to keep it. All right, keep going.
So, Stephen, you brought up something before about fear and it kind of being the deal killer. And I'll give you my own personal case on this one. I was talking originally how I came in and started helping run a software company here in Calgary. And it was a couple of guys that actually built something for me ages ago. And they kept coming to me and saying, would you come work for me? And it was one guy was a propeller head and the other guy wore Birkenstocks, right? So I just kind of was like, I don't know if you guys even have anything. But I think they went and brought a guy on, ex-IBMer, who actually put stability into the company. I think, for me, that overcame the fear. They put a cash injection and I said, okay, I'm ready to come work for you guys now. So same thing. I was a reluctant entrepreneur. But why do you, how can people overcome fear and make that first step?
Information. I think the unknown. You're always going to have you're never going to have all the answers. But for me, I like to take away fear by really studying the marketplace very carefully. Information seems to calm me down a little bit. All right, and also if you're going to start a company, look at who can you bring on that has maybe some of the skills that you don't have. And when I started the guitar pick business, I was very fortunate, and I wouldn't have done this if I hadn't had my partner, Rob Stefani, having that experience being a musician, number one, and number two, running retail stores. And that gave me the confidence to realize, okay, he has experience. I don't have any at all. So I built a team that took away some of the fear of the unknown. That helped me. But it's all about information, reaching out to people, asking a lot of questions, even putting together a small business plan, although I didn't. But looking back, when I was gathering information, it was really like putting the business plan together. And so it's all about information.
You talk about the business plan. We'll get into that again because you do have a great formula for a one-page business plan in here. So the idea of what's a typical day for an entrepreneur, I already have the answer to this question, but I want to get your take on it. What's a typical day for an entrepreneur?
Oh, geez, you're going to sit. Well, a typical day, I don't think there's really a typical day. I think you're always putting out fires. You're always, hopefully you're having fun, but you're also under stress. You're doing 100 different things. You're wearing all these different hats. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. You never know what the next day is going to bring. And I think there's for me anyway, I was working 7 days a week, 60 hours a week, and loving every minute of it, but wearing a lot of different hats, and I think you're basically just putting out fires and running from one thing to the next. I don't know if that's really a good idea to do it that way, but that's what happens for me anyway.
My typical day is I get up, I do stuff, I go to bed, and I sleep, right? So the three things that are common are bed, sleep, and wake up. And that's about it. Everything else in between, I absolutely wear like multiple hats. You do as much stuff as humanly possible, without disrupting as much of the family life as possible as well. So that's go ahead, Kirsten.
Well, it's the work-life balance that's probably the biggest challenge for an entrepreneur is how do you not have your business become all of you, and how do you keep that equilibrium? Would be my thought. I mean, unless you're single and happily single, it becomes a challenge.
I think when you're self-employed, you're running your own business, there isn't a typical work week, and I think you're always on call. Mm-hmm. And I think it does have a big impact on your family. You need to have a very patient wife with that understands that, supports that, and hopefully maybe sit down with your family and try to have them understand what you're going through, because it is difficult and you're under a lot of stress, and it's not great for having stability in your household. No question.
I have a question, Chris, as well. Is how do you deal with the peaks and valleys that an entrepreneur has? And it's like a pendulum, right? You're pushing to drive business, and then you got to execute, and then you're pushing to drive business. Dude. Yeah. What was that? Prozac?
Adderall, Prozac, and beer.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the answer. There. You're always going to have the highs and lows, all right? So you have to be prepared for it. And for me, if it got to be very difficult, I walked away from it and just said, all right, come back to it in 24 hours or 12 hours or 6 hours. Take a break from it, because you need to regroup sometimes, because you're going to hit a lot of walls at times. But just love what you do. Be persistent. Have a have a vision of where you want to be 6 months to a year, and keep on looking at that, and you'll get there. Do it one step at a time, one bite at a time, and you'll get there.
I like that idea of the concept is actually have a vision or have a plan and move forward. I mean, it does, and I truly agree too. Is step back for a bit, just relax, take it easy, take a breath. Things seem to work out in the end anyways, so that's typically what happens. That's what I find, hopefully.
Well, they always do.
I say that today. Ask me tomorrow. It might be different.
Yeah. I'll have that conversation with your wife.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. Hey, chapter 3 is a good idea. It's a great chapter. It's the concept of what is it? Keep it simple. And you go into the idea of the simple idea and also the characteristics. So, can you give just a high level on what's your idea of what's the concept of the simple idea, and maybe 2 or 3 characteristics of the simple idea. So this is actually nailing down your product or your service or whatever, right? So,
sure. First of all, I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel, okay? Because that takes a lot of education, a lot of money. So I'm all about finding a small improvement on an existing idea, because there's a market that already exists. Now, number 2, if you make it small, number 1, it's probably going to be easy to inventory, and it's going to probably not cost as much, so you don't need as much money, right? And if you keep it simple, it's easy to understand, it's easy to demonstrate. I think if you just keep it small, simple, you're going to have a better chance of success. I like the guitar pick was a great example of that, because I could put 1 million guitar picks underneath my desk, and it didn't require a lot of warehousing. It did eventually when we were selling to Walmart. I mean, we had warehouses and sold tens of millions of guitar picks, but it didn't start out that way. So keep it small, keep it simple. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's great. You should write a story about how you actually pulled that together and did it. I'm sure there's bumps and rides on that. Hey, the one thing I did like actually about the characteristics, and I see this all the time, is make sure it has a large market. I have seen so many people come to us that have this idea, and it's like, especially in Calgary, and I'm going to tell you specifically in Calgary, this might be unique only to Calgary, I don't know, but because we're heavily laden on the oil and gas industry, I have guys that come through, they go, this is my idea. I go, this is wonderful. It fits into 25 companies. And the decision on these companies, the sell cycle on these companies is probably anywhere from 2 to 3 years. So you could be bankrupt before you even make your first sale. So it's the bigger audience. I don't know who else said that. Was that the guy from ShamWow? He talked about something like, we didn't interview him or anything like that. And I'm not comparing you to Vince from ShamWow in any means whatsoever. But I think he also came up with the idea. I'd read something. He talked about make sure it has a big audience, right? And then it goes. So.
It's going to take just as much work if you have a small audience or a big audience. So if you've got that large audience, potentially the sales are going to be quite large, and you'll do well. So look, it's so easy to do now. Just whatever category you're in, go down to the store and look at your competition. If they're in a Walmart, that's a big market. If Walmart's going to carry it, you've got a big market. Or do a little homework on the internet. All that information is available to all of us now, and then do that first. And go, wow, and then do the math. I talk about doing the math first. At the end of the day, is it going to generate the type of revenue that I'm looking for? So if you do the math, it's really simple numbers to me. It's really how many am I going to sell? How much money am I going to make at the end of the day to put in my pocket? There you go. Keep it simple.
Wasn't it in the last book you said you go to the malls and you look at stuff? That's very similar to what you're talking here, right? Is you just go to see what's going on and see what sort of things are out there. Like weren't you in like Hot Topic or something like that? Looking at guitar picks or something. I can't remember I'm trying to remember was that it? Was it?
Yes, I'm one of those guys. I look at the marketplace and I let the marketplace tell me what it needs, where the holes are, and with the guitar picks, we noticed right away that there's a few major players, and they were doing the same thing for the last 30 years. And they had a very small market because they were selling guitar picks to, guess what, musicians. Okay, so we created fun lifestyle guitar picks that everybody wanted them. Fans, bands, everybody. So our market was 10 times the size. Yeah. So just by looking at your competition or a category, studying it, look where their holes are, and you'll see an opportunity, and then look at how to build a business around that opportunity. Yeah.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm sure going into Hot Topic at your age was kind of, you got a few stares, I'm sure. So I'm sure I would too. I'm not calling you old, Stephen. I'm just simply saying
no.
Look,
you're absolutely right.
You don't look like you're 15 anymore.
Look who's talking, Chris.
Yeah, no, and I'm gray and balding and all that stuff. So.
They probably wanted me to leave real quick. It probably wasn't good for business to see a guy like me in there.
Go back to Cold Creek, buddy. Hey, the Cold Creek, that's for chicks. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't say that even. So, hey, here's a question. It's interesting. Is how critical is it, do you think, for a product to actually solve a problem? Because and the reason I ask this is because, I don't necessarily think your guitar picks necessarily solved a problem. Well, maybe it did. I mean, it made kids feel great and cool, but like how critical is it nowadays to actually have something that truly solves a problem?
Well, traditionally, that's what you think when people come up with ideas, it solves a problem. But most of my ideas are not that, they just aren't that creative. I mean, or they're not that, I don't know. I mean, I've got some great ideas out there that I've licensed and sold that do solve problems, but the majority of my ideas just put a smile on your face. Yeah. And they're just fun, they're whimsical, and people like them. And so I guess I don't see problems like some people do. And I don't design that way. I just try to find things that people will like and enjoy. Yeah.
So I think you just dumb it down, make you happy, and there you go.
Well, not dumb it down, but what I liked about the guitar picks was that we took an item that has been around for 40 years, and we had guitar picks in the shapes of Mickey Mouse, and we did the trade shows. We won best of show at the largest trade shows with the guitar picks. Who would have known? With a simple idea, a small change. So I always get back, keep it simple, make it fun. Look at your market, and we sold, tens of millions of them, and I got to meet some really amazing people through the whole process. So it doesn't have to be complicated.
So Stephen, how did you deal with the sudden explosion of growth? Like, how did that affect your mindset and how you were going? Or, I mean, you had probably outsourced a lot of this, but how did you deal with that?
Yeah. Well, I remember when we got the order for Walmart, and I mean, everybody wants to be in Walmart, right? And I thought, well, this is fantastic. So we get this order. I'm like, all right, I've got to figure out how many I need to order. And so I start figuring out, and I figure I need a warehouse. So, okay. So I get a warehouse, and I figure out how many pallets are coming. And guess what? The truck shows up, and we can't get everything in the warehouse. I measured wrong.
Oh, dear.
And then I realized, I did the math again, and I realized they want this order. It was like a $500,000 order for a little company, right? And I'm thinking, well, how long is it going to take to make it? And I did the math. It was going to take like 100 days with my team. And I realized, wait a minute. So it was really a challenge. It took 100 people. I hired 100 people. But what I did, I asked my wife, I said, how, she's much smarter than I am. And I said, Janice, how am I going to do this? He said, well, why don't you take it to our school? Let's do a fundraiser. We'll bring all the kids, the parents in, and donate the money to the school. And so I built a labor force of over 100 people within 3 days, got the order out, and made the Walmart order. So it was nerve-wracking. It was crazy, and it was fun. It was exciting. It was all those things, but we got it done. I don't think anybody could ever prepare for that, to tell you the truth. That's why it's great. So, and I did everything wrong. My math was wrong. Yeah, it still worked out.
back to my point, things tend to work themselves out eventually, right? So it's, hey, you go into the book in chapter 4, it's talking about partnerships, and I have often, Kirsten and I work with a lot of guys that are either startup or just really kind of past that startup phase, commercialization, getting stuff going. And I often say to them, the quickest way to success is forming partnerships. What's your take on forming partnerships, or what's a good idea about forming a partnership with someone?
Well, you have to be careful. Number one, to finding that right partner. And I think before you do, there's a couple things you can have them do to see if they can complete these tasks, and make sure you've got the right personalities. It's difficult. It's like a marriage, right? So. Be careful, take it slow, find that right person that has the same goals, doesn't have the same skill sets that you have. You need to be able to work together and give it a shot. It's not easy. I was very fortunate. I'm one of those guys, I always have partners in everything I do. And maybe because I'm just one of those nervous guys I talked about, where I like the teamwork part of it, and sharing responsibility and working off each other's energy. So I think you need to really look very, very carefully at your partner. It is a marriage, and make sure that you have the same vision, same work ethic, right?
Yeah. On the product idea, I think the last book you talked a lot about the provisional patent, and I think that's where that slides into this book, which is I think. That is, there's a couple things in the book that I really think can really hit home. Well, there's numerous things. I'm sorry, I'm not distilling it down to just 2 things in your book, but the concept of the provisional patent. I mean, it's unique in certain countries. In Canada, we don't have that advantage, but how do we get around it? We just actually file a U.S. provisional patent anyways, right? So can you, the U.S., God bless America, I tell you. Can you just let our viewers know kind of what is a provisional patent and how does it protect you? Because a lot of people will watch this and go, I got a great idea. And I think they look at it and they go, well, I got a patent, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. But it really doesn't have to, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. In fact, the old way would be filing a patent, building a prototype, and then seeing if someone really wants it. Well, that never worked very well. And patents are very, very expensive. It could be $10,000 up to $20,000. So a provisional patent application is a great tool for all of us, where we can file it. You can file it yourself for, I think it's like $130 now. You can file it yourself. It gives you 1 year. A date. It's like a date. It gives you 1 year that you came up with this idea, and you can shop it around to companies, either with licensing or maybe trying to venture it yourself. But it gives you that window of 1 year to see if you really have a good idea. And you can share it with people now without thinking that someone's going to do something funny with your idea. So it's a great tool. It's very, very affordable. There's some software that can show you how to write one. It's not hard. And it doesn't have all the legalese in it. So it's a great tool. And you're right. What's really great, you can live in other parts of the world, still file a provisional patent application in the United States, and then you could actually file a PCT, which could cover your own country. So there's these workarounds. They're brilliant. So it's a wonderful tool for everybody. You don't have to go out there and spend tens of thousands of dollars. Look at what a provisional patent application, study it, go on, Google it, learn as much as you can. It's a wonderful tool for all of us. Perfect.
I absolutely agree. I've actually filed 3. Apparently my ideas suck though, because they never went anywhere. So it's that's the one thing. Hey, the good, you know, the idea is ready, set, launch on chapter 5. So this is, I alluded to it earlier, is your one-page biz plan. And obviously, I see it, you see it, Kirsten and I see it. Guys get out. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I see when companies come to me and say, hey, we need help, is I often say to them, where do you want to be a year from now? And they go, I don't know. And I go, well, then if you don't know where you're going to be a year from now, when are you going to get there, right? So your idea of the one-page business plan, I think if anyone were to buy the book, so Stephen, here I am. I'm going to give you the, this is your unique selling proposition for this thing is, if anyone's going to buy the book, page 86, the one-page business plan is far worth the weight in gold in this one for anyone who's going to be an entrepreneur and wants to be an entrepreneur. So, and as I say, I'm not trying to distill your book down to two nice things like provisional patents in a business plan, but I'll tell you what, that's my selling point is I'm not going to get much into it, but you literally have 5 steps in here, and you give this real simple, if you could draw a circle, you could do a business plan basically, right? Is what I get out of this thing.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to actually, Jim Horan, that's his philosophy, is a one-page business plan. We interviewed him, so I cannot take credit for that, right? But
I thought all authors were hacks and thieves, man. I thought.
Well,
I'm joking, Stephen. Obviously.
Slow down.
Well, you know what's funny? No. What was amazing when we wrote this book is that I reached out to other entrepreneurs that have simple ideas, and I asked them, "Did you have a business plan?" And 99.9, everybody said no. And I didn't either. And so I asked them, and I said, well, if you had to do it again, would you have a business plan? They all said yes. And I think all of us are intimidated by a business plan at first. And so Jim Horan put together this whole philosophy of a one page, and it's really nice. It's brilliant. And he boils it down. He makes it really, really simple. I talk a little bit about it. I think all of us are kind of putting together a one-page business plan when we start out because we're asking these questions. But put it down on paper, look at it, and it's going to change over time. But make it simple. And I like that you mentioned about having the vision a year out. Where do you want to be? That's part of that plan. So I think when you put it down to paper, it really forces you to focus, and it requires you to go after that information sometimes that we kind of gloss over. And even the big, it's funny. On a side note, I'm amazed that some companies don't do the first step. And how big is the market, like you mentioned? And I've seen a lot of people build companies around an area that's not very large. Yep. And they end up thinking they'll never really get to the end where they want to get because they didn't do the first step of saying, look, is the marketplace large enough for my vision of where I want to be a year from now? So
the other thing with that is by the way, you get that one company and you're making a lot of cash, and if they ever pull your contract or do anything, you're done, right? So
yeah,
it's
well, that's why the Walmart thing was so nerve-wracking for me. We had a lot of stores, we had thousands of stores, but when the Walmart came along, you had to build a lot of inventory and you had to ship it and then float the money. You had to float the money for 90 days, and that was scary for me. I didn't realize that they always paid. Walmart was a great company, always paid on time, but you still had to float it for 90 days. And then you had to be prepared that the next order was coming, so you had to build it again. Geez. So it's I brought in someone to help me understand cash flow a little bit. I also had someone come in to help me with inventory. So I'm all about getting to the point where I need some other people to help me. and I think the book talks a little bit about that, that you're going to need experts in certain fields. Go out. Don't think you can do it all. Grab some information that people have done it before and tap into it. It's a great resource.
Awesome. It's yeah. It's
well, it tells me that you know whatever you're doing, you don't want to hoard all of the process to yourself and have you know. I guess the control freak has a really tough time succeeding as an entrepreneur. You have to let go a little bit of that process.
You're right, and that's why it's okay to be stubborn and persistent, but don't be too stubborn, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're going to learn and you're going to grow, and every step. Bring in people that have more experience than you do and tap into it. Find a mentor, find someone, and ask a lot of questions. I do. I ask the stupidest questions, and it serves me well because at the end of the day, I get the answers that I need. So I'm not afraid of asking those questions.
That's excellent advice, actually. Hey, the one thing also in the chapter that you go into is, and this always creates fear in entrepreneurs, is how the heck am I going to fund this thing? So, I mean, we could go on for hours on that, but I'll tell you what, just give me your best piece of advice on if you have to fund a company, what do you do?
I'm all about keeping it small. And the reason why small is going to take less money, hopefully, right? And it's always going to take twice or 3 times as much money as you think it's going to take. I don't care what anybody says. How do you fund it? I funded my company with my own money. And I think that gives, and I saved the money and I found the money and my partner had a little bit of money and that's not, for some people they cannot do that, but having my own skin in the game like that was very important. There's some things out there today like Kickstarter, which is an extremely interesting way of raising money. So there are ways, right? But just be careful when you do that. Borrowing money from people, especially family, I don't think that ever works out very well. And if you don't have the money, maybe it's time to reevaluate, scale back, look at it. That's why that business plan is really important to say, look, do I have the money to correctly launch and be successful? Because part of what the book also talks about is not only launching, but how to keep in business. You know, how to you know, it's one thing to launch a company and start selling one product, but how do I keep innovating? How do I keep ahead of everybody else? How do I stay in business for a long time? And that's the point, I think, of innovating, watching your dollars very closely, your cash flow. We talk a lot about that in the book. So it's a balancing act. You have to wear a lot of hats and have people help you along the way. But fundraising is a tough part of it. I know it is for everybody. But don't like I say, I try to reduce the risk. So I try to find ideas that are very simple, that don't cost a lot of money and can be manufactured very easily and don't require huge amounts of money to get started.
I think, you know, actually, I think your the last book is an excellent example of just how to license something. If you come up with an idea, just license it. We won't get into that, but that's, I mean, it's a phenomenal read. One Simple Idea. So is this one. Hey, the other one here is chapter 6. You got flipping the switch and launching, but the one part that I found interesting was kind of the onshoring and offshoring of stuff. And I mean, you talk a lot about if it could be done in America, do it in America. I'm sure if you were in Canada, you say if it could be done in Canada, do it in Canada. What's your concept behind that? Is that just because you got one throat to choke that's so close and you can get at them, or is it because? I guess actually the other side to it too is, you know, you should use your own country if you can. I mean, keep the money in your country, keep it growing, right? So
I don't even look at it that way. Forget that. I look at it very different. I think that's a good, positive thing to do for the country, for your country, absolutely. But I'm a little bit more selfish than that. I look at it this way. I've worked overseas on projects for other companies. When you have that distance, you're going to have problems. And when you're starting out, you don't want those type of problems. So if you can start out in the United States, it's going to cost you a little bit more money. I know that. And if you can make it work here, you definitely can make it work when you start to go overseas, because you're going to have a larger profit margin there. So I like to start here. I can control it. I can manage it. I can actually be fast if I'm manufacturing here for the market today. That's what I like about it too. I can be very, very quick. If the market changes, I can be right on top of it. And I'm not going to have problems, right? So that's why I say if you can manufacture here, do it. And I think you're going to find that it's going to serve you well if you can. And then always go overseas. If the business gets big enough, go overseas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Once you're established.
Good idea. Good idea.
Yes.
Hey, we got about 10 minutes left here, and we got to be cognizant of your time. There's a few things I wanted to talk about. One is chapter 7. You go into the marketing side, and Chris and I are marketers at heart, and I do sales marketing, and one of the things that I see with a lot of companies is, especially with entrepreneurs, they truly believe that they have built the most wonderful thing possible ever. And they're absolutely baffled as to why no one knows anything about them or why they're not selling more, right? And typically it is because no one knows who they are. So as an entrepreneur, because most guys, what I find with entrepreneurs, they're not, a lot of them, well, I shouldn't say a lot of them. We'll just say there's a certain portion that are guys that are not sales, not marketing, and they tinker. They create a software program. They don't know how to take it to the market. They don't know how to get the people to look at it. Can you give a couple of suggestions for, say, entrepreneurs that have a product or per se even a service that they want to offer, and how could they get people to look at it in the marketplace? How would they get exposure? What's a good way to get exposure, I guess, is the best way to do it.
Well, it's changed. Marketing today is different than it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. It's changing so quickly. And we have some really great tools out there, social networking. We have things that we can do on the internet that we can get the word out. But the problem is, how do you get people on your site, seeing your product, right? So what I like to do is that I go ahead and I study the competition again. I look at what they're doing. I look to see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. I look at it very, very closely, and I learn from that. But at the end of the day, understand that advertising dollars are very expensive, right? And most people don't have those type of dollars. I didn't have those type of dollars. But find other ways of building relationships with other people that have a bigger network. And so after a while, first of all, love your customer. There's the whole marketing. Love your customer, and the customer will love you. Know what they want, know where they're shopping, know what they're looking at, and reach out to them and have a conversation with them and get them to know you. Be very transparent and be remarkable, right? Be something that the other companies, big companies, cannot do, especially if you're a small company. And so marketing to me is really understanding my customer and where they're hanging out and having a conversation with them. And don't try to sell. Stop selling everybody. Help them make good decisions. And I think that's the new rules of marketing. And today they're really fun because the playing field has leveled with all the social networking that we can do today. But you can't walk into a social networking site and go, hey, I got a product here. Does anybody want it? You can't do that. It's like walking to a party. Get to know everybody first and truly have interest in your customer and love them. And your marketing will be easy then because you're always going to try to find them, how to get the word out to them, and be their friend. It sounds weird, but I've found that being small is really the magic. The magic company today to me is just, even if you're a big company, act small, right? So people want that connection. They want that relationship. They want to have a connection with a person, not a company anymore. That's my opinion. I want someone to pick up the phone when I call. I want to be able to go to a website that doesn't want me to fill out something. I try to break down those type of things that I don't like. And I think a lot of us, we don't like it either. We want a relationship with the company that's going to treat us well, that's going to reward us for our business, and find those social networking that you can get out. Go to trade shows. I love it. Reach out to, if you're going to do the media, reach out to any media outlet. Tell your story. Make it newsworthy. And work it. Work it. It takes a lot of work. Okay. That's a lot of stuff, but it takes a lot of work, but enjoy it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It does take a lot of work. It's no overnight success. What do they say? Overnight success takes 7 years or something like that. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think what was it? The first year of your business is like 90% of your energy has to be put into that first 1 or 2 years, and then it kind of starts to flow. But I understand what you're saying. You're basically saying open up. The biggest leveraging point is to open up and be transparent and not be somebody else or some other larger entity. Open it up, let people join you in the success of your product and your company. Create that community feel that they're a part of the success, and then they can go and boast to everybody, hey, I was there when that guy started.
Word of mouth. You're right. By doing that, you're going to have word of mouth, and that's the best way of selling. Someone's going to sell for you, right? Mm-hmm. Good customer service, good product. I love these guys. And that's how you build a loyal customer base that keeps on coming back to you. When we were started with the guitar picks, it was MySpace. I know that's a few years ago, but we reached out to garage bands that no one cared about. No one was going to service them. Especially our competition didn't care about garage bands. We loved them, and they loved us back, and they were our army. We built our army on social networking by understanding what their needs and wants were.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's a good point. Actually, we often bring this stat up. It's Word of Marketing WOMA or whatever it is, Word of Mouth Marketing Association. They got a stat. I think it's either 65 or 66% of all sales are influenced by word of mouth. Yet only 18% of companies have any kind of formalized referral or referral program in place. So I've often said that to guys, that if you really want to have the biggest, hardest hitting thing and grow your sales, just focus on getting referrals and making people happy. Exactly like what you're saying. So
I think you're right.
As we're getting close to the top of the hour here, I just want to a couple of quick questions. So I talked to you about this before, just so I wouldn't put you, throw you off, so you have to sit and think for a few minutes. But because you've been there and you've done that, what is maybe one or two of the biggest obstacles that you've encountered as an entrepreneur that you could share with people watching today, or watching the interview here, and how they could overcome it?
I think it's fear. Fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest obstacle we all have, is that we question ourselves. Do we have enough experience? Can I make it? It all comes down to fear. And so if you can find a way of taking away that fear, and I think you can by finding good information, finding someone that's already done it, ask a lot of questions, and be prepared. And what I try to do is I look at the high, medium, and low in every situation. So I'm always prepared for every situation. I just do that with knowledge, right? So that's the biggest obstacle, I think, with anybody that's going to start a business is, can I do it? What am I going to put at risk? Am I capable? And I think you can take it away just by finding others that are doing it, reading good books, and hanging in there and believing in yourself. Right?
I often find, too, on top of that, is that if you actually just go ask people for advice, even successful people, if you just go and reach out to them and ask them, most people are like, yeah, I'll tell you how to do that. Here's something that you can get. I mean, heck, you just did it for us. We just asked you and you told us. But
I love what you just said. And one of my early students was Tim Ferriss, and he wrote this great book. And Tim was able to reach out to me and all these other people. And people I look back, and why were we always helping Tim? Because he really had nothing to offer any of us, but we all helped Tim Ferriss become very successful. And I realized is that every time he called us up, he always was very flattering. Steve, this and that, and I love, basically, and it was nice to hear. So of course, if you have someone you want to reach out to, understand their business, make it about them for a while, talk about them, and say, and they'll come back and say, hey, how can I help you? And then that's how you approach it. But you can reach out to anybody with flattery.
Yep.
And be sincere, of course, and even if you're not, it still works. People love to hear it.
Absolutely.
That's what Tim does, and it works.
Well, Stephen, you're the most wonderful person we've ever had on this show before. And,
there we go.
There we go. The sincere flattery, eh?
Actually,
you know what, Stephen, you are.
Can I send you guys a gift card? What would you guys?
Actually, you know what, Stephen, you are. You are a great guy to have on. We've had you on twice, and both times have been phenomenal. I'm going to hold the book up one more time because we are at the top of the hour. So we've got One Simple Idea for startups and entrepreneurs. As I say, Stephen, I did not distill it down. There are not just 2 ideas in here that you have to go after. There's so many and stuff.
Like three.
There might be even a 4th one somewhere buried in the appendix.
You got to read the whole book to get to that one.
But no, there's a lot of great stuff. And I'm going to put a plug in for the first book because I think it's an awesome book too. Right? Is the first one on audio tape yet, or is it? Do you have it?
No, not yet, man. I don't know. No.
I know how the audiobooks work actually, because I was talking to Lon Safko last week about this, and he finally got his social media Bible on, and he says what it is guys just take on the risk and they actually go and read the book, and then he just gets royalties from it. There you go. If they follow in your idea, right? It's like
there you go.
Exactly. Anyways, Stephen, thank you ever so much for being on today. We greatly appreciate it. It's a great book, great read. One Simple Idea for Startups and Entrepreneurs, and in addition, One Simple Idea, both great reads. And go to Stephen's site at
inventright.com.
Lots of great information on there as well.
Yep.
So.
Yes,
and reach out to Stephen, and I'm sure there's lots of information you're going to learn from all of his websites and online and of course those books. So well, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate your time again.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching. Thanks, Chris, again for joining. You're always you get so into those books, and we always get the best questions through you there, Chris. Everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.